Employment is the basis of people's livelihoods, and livelihoods are the livelihoods of the people. In layman's terms, it is the means to support your family and make a living, those who can inherit their ancestors. The vast majority of people need to find a job in the community, and the vast majority of people need to find a job in the community. The vast majority of people have to find a job in society and sell their labor to survive. Survival is a heavy topic, and to survive we must find work. It can be said that employment is a very sensitive issue and one that is of great concern to the. It is also an issue of great concern to the public. It is a very sensitive issue and one that is of great concern to the general public, because employment is a matter of personal interest to everyone, and the stability and unity of society. Therefore, employment is an important issue, both in economics textbooks and in front of policy makers. The issue of employment is an important one, both in economics textbooks and in the minds of policy makers. Both developed and developing countries attach great importance to employment. Employment is an important issue in both developed and developing countries. Since the 1990s, especially with the accelerated globalization of the economy and the new round of economic restructuring, structural unemployment and frictional unemployment have been on the rise. The employment situation in many countries is extremely serious. The employment situation in many countries is extremely critical. In the 21st century, the issue of employment became more than a mere economic issue. The employment issue has become not just a purely economic issue, but a social issue that cannot be avoided. It has become a social issue that cannot be avoided. In the context of economics, a person who is willing and able to work for pay. In the context of economics, a situation where a person is willing and able to work for pay, but has not yet found a job, is considered to be unemployed. The unemployment rate is the proportion of the working population that qualifies as unemployed. It is intended to measure the amount of labor capacity that is idle. The unemployment rate is calculated as unemployment rate equals unemployed population working population x 100% population x 100%. In practice, it is very difficult to determine the number of unemployed people who are actually looking for work. It is very difficult to determine the number of unemployed people who are actually looking for work, especially those whose unemployment benefits have expired before they find work. The history of unemployment is the history of industrialization. The history of unemployment is the history of industrialization. In the countryside, this is not seen as a problem. In rural areas, this is not seen as a problem, although the hidden unemployed in the rural labor force have little to do, especially in the rural areas. There is little to do, especially in a situation of overpopulation. There are many causes of unemployment, so the structure and movement of unemployment. The structure and movement of unemployment is therefore a key observation. Unemployment can be divided into 1. Frictional unemployment. This refers to the phenomenon of people becoming unemployed while looking for work or changing jobs. 1. Frictional unemployment. This refers to unemployment during the process of finding or changing jobs. For example, young people are often unemployed before they find a job they are happy with. For example, young people often change jobs several times before finding a job they are happy with and committing to it for a long period of time. Or, the phenomenon of frictional unemployment. The final manifestation of frictional unemployment. The final manifestation of frictional unemployment is that job seekers cannot find satisfactory jobs, and employers cannot find the people they need. The final manifestation of frictional unemployment is that job seekers are unable to find satisfactory jobs, and employers are unable to find the talents they need, resulting in difficulties in employment and recruitment. Many university students are unable to find a suitable job after graduation, and this is the case. Generally speaking, it is important to increase vocational training programs and improve information communication so that the unemployed are aware of job opportunities. In general, increased vocational training programs and better information communication so that the unemployed can be sure of their job opportunities can reduce unemployment in this area. 2. Structural unemployment, the result of market competition or changes in production technology. 2. Structural unemployment, unemployment caused by market competition or changes in production technology. For example, when the new computer industry is, while the new computer industry is recruiting heavily, steelmakers are facing unemployment because of the decline of the steel industry. Similarly, while the booming special economic zones, SEZs, are opening up jobs, many workers in the old industrial zones are losing their jobs. Industrial areas, many workers are losing their jobs. This structural unemployment is often the result of the unemployed often have to endure long periods of unemployment, as it is difficult for steelworkers to get a job in just a few months. Because it is difficult for steelworkers to train as computer, the steelworkers cannot be trained as computer programmers in just a few months. It follows that structural unemployment is usually more durable than frictional unemployment, because it often indicates a need for people to work. This is because structural unemployment often means that people need to be retrained or relocated in order to find work. 3. Seasonal unemployment. 3. Seasonal unemployment. This refers to the situation in certain industries where production conditions or products are affected by weather conditions, social customs, or the availability of jobs. Seasonal unemployment. This refers to the seasonal fluctuations in the demand for labor due to production conditions or products in certain industries, which are influenced by weather conditions, social customs, or buying habits. Seasonal fluctuations in the demand for labor. For example, ice cream factories lay off employees during the low sales season, and the resulting unemployed are. This is seasonal unemployment. Vocational guidance for the seasonally unemployed should focus on information services to guide them through the low season, with a view to finding a job. The vocational guidance for the seasonally unemployed should focus on information services and guidance on flexible forms of employment, e.g., part-time work during the off-season, temporary employment. 4. Cyclical unemployment. This refers to unemployment caused by a lack of aggregate demand for labor due to fluctuations in the overall economic cycle. 4. Cyclical unemployment refers to unemployment resulting from a lack of aggregate demand for labor due to fluctuations throughout the economic cycle. It generally occurs during the recessionary phase of the economic cycle. This type of unemployment is consistent with cyclical fluctuations in the economy. During the recovery and boom phases, manufacturers compete to expand production and employment. There is a general increase in employment. In recessions and troughs, as social demand is low and the outlook, the recession and trough phases, with a lack of social demand and a gloomy outlook, saw manufacturers cut back on production and lay off a large number of employees. The result is a headache of unemployment. For example, you are an employee of a manufacturer of air conditioners. As the economic recessionary cycle, people's incomes drop and fewer people are buying air conditioners. Fewer and fewer people buy air conditioners. At this point, the air conditioners you produce are piling up in the warehouse, pile up, and the boss looks worse and worse every day, until one day, the boss announced with a heavy face that in order to survive the crisis, the company would have to lay off staff. So you become a cyclical worker, so you become cyclically unemployed, and you will find that there are many people around you who are unemployed just like you. Unemployment is a widespread phenomenon. In all countries, there are people who are unemployed. Generally speaking, people don't want to be unemployed. They think it's a bad thing. Unemployment is a bad phenomenon, but many Western economists believe that a reasonable rate of unemployment and the existence of a reasonable rate of unemployment and the phenomenon of unemployment is one of the conditions necessary to promote social development. The existence of a reasonable unemployment rate and unemployment is considered by many Western economists to be one of the conditions necessary for social development. However, the unemployment of university students is not useless for society as a whole. It has some positive implications. Water flows downwards, people go upwards. The problem of unemployment is not without its positive aspects. And only through free movement can human resources be optimally allocated, and it is only through free movement that human resources can be optimally allocated and the efficiency of their use maximized. From the perspective of human resource allocation, the phenomenon of unemployment among university students is the result of the free flow of human resources, and, in turn, it removes obstacles to the free movement of human resources and creates. In this sense, the unemployment of university students is the result of the free movement of human resources. In this sense, the phenomenon of unemployment among university students is not entirely a waste of human resources. In this sense, the phenomenon of university students' unemployment is not entirely a waste of human resources, but, on the contrary, it can, to a certain extent, contribute to the optimal. In this sense, the phenomenon of university students' unemployment is not entirely a waste of human resources, but can, to a certain extent, contribute to the optimal allocation of human resources.